Hangin with Mr. Douglas.
All right, welcome, everybody. Welcome back to Hangin' with Mr. Douglas, where the premise of the show is past the point of asking whether or not it's real. We know the answer. The question is, what can we do about it? Well, today we are fortunate enough to tilt the odds in our favor and glean insight from the founder of a modern magical academy and man as example of magical manifestation in motion. We are here with Archibald Z, a magical meme-wielding wizard who I first caught a glimpse of via the clever, insightful, and sometimes wisdom-stuffed fireball-like posts he's been casting on X. This is a man who has dedicated himself to the practice of bringing magic back into the world's awareness. He has journeyed the astral realm, crossed through various religious practices. He has cast power rituals and charged hypersigils in the night of the deep dark forest and has the video proof. He is the founder of the Diamond Sunrise Academy at diamondsunrise.org, a modern magical mystery school sourcing from systems of the past and molded and made svelte in a way where you can study and learn the ways of magic design for modern times. Living a wizard's life and putting it all into practice, showing, telling, and teaching magic while sprinkling dank memes and posts on the daily. Archibald, thank you very much for hanging, man. Thank you.
Amazing intro. Love it. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And like I said before we started recording, the premise of the show is talking about what we can do about it. Thank you very much for joining in that conversation. To kick us off, to get us started, how were you first exposed to magic? And I would be interested to know how you first answered the question whether or not magic is real for yourself.
Great question. I had a friend who mentioned magic to me a couple times. The first time he mentioned it in passing, and I was like, cool, I don't really know what that means. But the second time he brought it up, maybe a year later, I was in a place where I'm a pretty open guy. I'm usually into exploring things that I've never explored before. So when it entered my consciousness a second time, I was like, let's give this a go. Let's see what this is all about. So rather than just reading about it, I jumped in, started practicing every single day, maybe a little bit too quickly, a little bit too far, too fast, but that's how it goes sometimes.
What
I started off.
Yeah,
go ahead.
Going. Oh, just what in particular did you dive right into? What end of the deep end of the pool did you start to swim in?
Right. So there's a book called Liber Null. Are you familiar with it?
Yeah, Peter Carroll, right? Liber Null,
right.
Psychonaut. Yes.
And he wrote that book when he was 28 years old. So he was a young wizard when he wrote it himself. And it goes quite deep, quite quickly. If you read chapter by chapter and you start applying what's in that book. So essentially I would just practice every day. I would sit down and meditate. I already had a deep meditation practice from many years on and off. And one of the things that he teaches is to visualize a sphere in your mind and hold that as long as you can. And that's a big part of Diamond Sunrise as well. So that was a battle, actually. The first day, maybe I got a 1 second glimpse of the sphere. But after 3 days, I got a hold of it, you could say, where it became under my control. I could make it grow, shrink, spin, stop, change textures. And that was the very beginning. I don't know how far you want me to delve into my journey.
Well, that's great. That's fantastic. I that is a wonderful entry point. And Peter J. Carroll certainly just drops you right into the middle of it. Bully for you to be able to just say, all right, Peter, I see you. Let's do it. That's intense. Very cool. Before we get into the practices of Diamond Sunrise, I do want to touch upon your focus on the astral portion and workings, including the sphere that you do discuss on your website. But you define yourself as an occult astral chaos magic practitioner. I am curious, could you unpack that just a little bit for people who might be unfamiliar with the terminology?
Yeah, well, I would first and foremost say I do ceremonial magic, theurgy, and celestial ascent are my main practices. although I've been getting into energy work lately. But your question about astral, people are really curious about what astral even is or what it means. And it often gets conflated with a couple things. There's astral projection, out of body experience, and then there's just your imagination. And from what I've come to understand, I was very confused about this myself. Most people, when they're talking about astral experiences, they're talking about experiences in their imagination. It's as simple as that.
I appreciate that. That's what makes you consider, or what has clarified that for you? What was it that was the giveaway? Like, oh, you are, and I don't mean just, but just talking about your imagination rather than traveling to a particular place. Are you familiar with Robert Monroe? Is it kind of like the bands at which he was experiencing?
Yeah, so he's doing, he calls it out of body experience, doesn't he?
Yes.
And that is an aspect of it. But I think building your ability to consciously daydream, which is using your imagination, is the first step into experiencing the astral. Because once you are able to essentially summon a lucid daydream where you forget you're a person meditating and now you're in a world of your own design, there are depths to it that eventually, as you go deeper and deeper, you start to realize, oh, this is the astral experience people are talking about. It's just deeper and deeper layers of your imagination where you go beyond a daydream and you're starting to explore in ways that you didn't think possible before.
Awesome. Okay, well, that actually leads me right into a particular question about how you work within Diamond Sunrise. You have built Diamond Sunrise as a modern, accessible mystery school with a structured free outer school as well as an inner school and higher order, which does have a strong draw from the Golden Dawn, but you have also done the work of condensing and tightening and modernizing quite a bit. Well, I would be interested first to discuss what some of the foundational aspects are that you wanted to keep, but then also what you incorporated that sets apart from other systems. And then we can touch upon the particular astral practices that you do discuss on your website.
Right. Yeah, so Golden Dawn, it's a magic system. It's like a leveling system from around 100 years ago. And, you know, you touched on the fact that I went through a couple different religions when I was first entering magic. I did Christianity, Islam, Buddhism, and then naturally and synchronistically, serendipitously, I encountered a wizard on X who had been doing this type of thing for 20 years. And I told him where I was at. And I said, what do you think is next for me? And he said, ceremonial magic. So I started to compile all the levels of Golden Dawn and go through them one by one, practice every single day. And the main common thread between Golden Dawn and Diamond Sunrise is, and it took me a while to figure this out, it's a spiritual development manifestation system. And that's what I would call celestial ascent, where you have your sights set on, I'm level 1, I want to get to level 2, and I really want to get to level 2. I'm taking it seriously. And because you're manifesting that, you start to trend in that direction. Lots of the experiences will be astral experiences or imaginal experiences, but the more you do things, the more it bleeds into the physical reality, and that's where the magic happens. So I wanted to introduce people to this system. I was going through it by myself, and I was like, I need to bring some people through this with me. Like, this is awesome. But not everybody is interested in drawing pentagrams in their imagination, which is Golden Dawn, or speaking Hebrew and saying Hebrew things.
Yeah.
So I've essentially turned it into a more westernized, even though Golden Dawn is westernized, where we use the Diamond Sunrise hyper sigil instead of pentagrams. Encoded within it is the 4 elements as well as the 7 planets on the unicursor hexagram. And I've changed the system a little bit to introduce people to certain things at different times. It's a little bit slower in some areas, faster in others, but I would say somebody could do either system and have the same results, but more people I feel like are going to go through Diamond Sunrise further than level 1 or level 2 because you're with a group of people, where Golden Dawn nowadays you have to go to a temple or you have to self-initiate online, and it's much better with a group of wizards.
I especially like how you present the outer school and taking groups as a cohort with a guide through that initial kind of foundational training. I am familiar with the Golden Dawn process and the ceremonies and rituals that they have you practice. And it is, I think, a necessary thing where we are now, uh, because this stuff is real. It's been real since human beings have been human being, but we need to continue to update and upgrade the way we discuss and engage with it. And Diamond Sunrise is a wonderful example of doing just that. So when you were talking about how when you were starting out, what bottlenecks did you run into when you were starting out? And how did that inform how you teach through Diamond Sunrise?
Right. Well, magic, when it comes down to ceremonial magic, chaos magic, theurgy. Are you familiar with theurgy?
I am familiar with it, yes. But
And
please describe it, break it down for the people listening and watching.
right. So theurgy, it's from Iamblichus from 1500 years ago. He's a Neoplatonist, and his theurgy manuals have no instructions, so you kind of just have to figure it out on your own. It's he would describe it as calling down the gods or becoming godlike or something like that. But I was able to put the pieces together when I found out about lesser invocation and greater invocations from chaos magic. This is where magic gets a little schizo, but bear with me. A lesser invocation is where you're so deep in your imagination, you can create environments, you can create anything, and you start summoning gods or angels or anything that you can imagine. You could do a lesser invocation of Oprah if you wanted to. And you would start having conversations with them. And at the start, most people should be well aware that you're just having a conversation with your subconscious. You're using the fact that you have a god of, imagine Thoth, the god of magic, how the god of magic would mentor you on magic. And a greater invocation would be once you've had so many of those conversations that you soak the god into you, and then your thoughts start to become the thoughts that you would imagine they would have.
So you're, as Oprah, giving yourself a car. Now you get a
Exactly,
car.
exactly.
Okay,
So
very cool.
this is one of the things that people can get hung up on. First of all, when you're doing ceremonial magic, and what I mean by that is using your imagination to create experiences for yourself for personal growth, essentially. One will find that they have to face many fears. The first time you go to summon something in your imagination, even though it's just in your imagination, there's a little bit of resistance there for most people, and those types of experiences can cling on to your psyche and stay with you. And if you don't have a sound mind about it, you can get confused about what's going on there, as you can
Mm,
imagine.
mm,
So that's one of the bottlenecks I find I ran into, as well as I see other people running into as well.
Sticky figures from the subconscious hanging out a little too long. So then, what are some ameliorations? How have you integrated solves into those bottlenecks in your training? Or is that stuff that is in the inner school?
It's definitely in the inner school, but there's some things that we've put together for the outer school to keep people safe and sane. One of the things we teach in the third month is the instant banishing ritual,
Mm.
where you practice building a barrier around yourself and your imagination, whether you have your eyes closed or open. There's a period where you create your own magical weapon, which you use to help empower you in your will, as well as using the Diamond Sunrise hyper sigil, which means divine coordination in our favor to help you know that you're going to be okay in that moment. And you can layer all three of them in an instant to clear anything from your imagination, or even if you're just going about your day and you have intruding thoughts, to reset to normal and feel like you're in control of the experience.
That's fantastic. Very cool. And it's nice to know that you have incorporated solves and solutions to engaging with stuff that most, at least people in the West, do not even try to consider engaging with. So that's very cool. Okay, so what? Well, I mean, we kind of that's an interesting sticky point there. That makes a lot of sense. Engaging with how our, and would you call them subconscious thought forms, or are they our subconscious simply our subconscious representations of how you would say Thoth or Oprah would might engage with us?
I love how Thoth and Oprah are in the same sentence there.
There's a lot of wisdom there.
There is. um, well, that's the thing about ceremonial magic, right? You're doing these invocations every day. And, for some people, you have to do it 100 times. Sometimes it's 200, 500, 1,000 times. But at a certain point, it doesn't take your focus and energy to bring them about. Sometimes you might enter your ceremonial space in your imagination and they're already there. Sometimes you're not asking questions and they're pacing back and forth, just spilling wisdom on you. And you have to sit there like, wait, is this my subconscious? These are questions that I've been manifesting the answer to, and now they're coming in this form. Sometimes one entity that you're engaging with will summon another one alongside themselves and introduce that one to you. And that's where the sound mind comes in, because you want to be able to figure out what's exactly going on there. And does that answer your question?
Yes, that's certainly. The answer is yes, and it's quite complex, and you need to put yourself in a awareness so that you can be able to engage without being taken over by particular internal appearances.
Right.
So,
if I could add one more thing onto that, actually,
yes,
real
please,
quick,
yes.
because there's Jungian psychology that is archetypes, and you're studying the archetypes within yourself, repressed and the ones that you're maxing out on. And it's good to use that to keep a sound mind, but you also want to have that childlike wonder to allow things to unfold on their own and have some belief in the fact that there may be more going on here, because it's that belief that will allow more experiences to come through. And then it's the Jungian archetype, this is my subconscious, that will keep you grounded. And bouncing back and forth between the two seems to be the happy middle ground.
That's awesome. I actually wrote that the work that you describe on your website reminds me very much of both the Golden Dawn pathworking and the Jungian active imagination process that he describes. Very cool. Let me see here. Okay, well, I mean, you're just taking me through my questions at rapid pace. I very much appreciate the wisdom. Is there anything, so you mentioned you design for yourself a weapon within the space that you create to pair with the banishing ritual. Is there anything else that you would call a must-have when you go exploring within this realm that you cultivate for yourself?
So, great questions. Some people in Diamond Sunrise that are going through the outer school right now don't even know these things. So if they were to watch this podcast, they'll get a little sneak preview of what they're getting themselves into.
All right. Thank you for dropping the gems. Thank you.
The final thing that you do in the outer school is you design a ceremonial space. We usually use the word temple, but it doesn't need to be a temple. It could be anything. It's a sacred space that you return to over and over again to do your ceremonial workings. And there aren't many magic books that I've read that actually tell you to do something like this, but it's something that if you do it long enough, you will kind of stumble upon. Hopefully, that you create a space that is meaningful to you, that you can charge and add things to. And then right after you design that, you create a magic circle in that ceremonial space where you can have north, east, west, south, and northeast, southwest, all 8 directions. where you can hold the elements in each direction and you can feel safe within the circle. You can have things inside and outside. You can summon things in the quarters too, as a means of memorizing where your invocations lie. I think those things are very important if you're going to be doing this every day.
Awesome. Very cool. So designing a firm foundation is absolutely a must-have, and it sounds like you are preparing people quite well. Very cool. I had on a practicing magician here before, his Nate, Jungle Pirate Wizard of postmuggleism.com, and moving on to discussing about spirit engagement. I would be very interested to know your take. He discusses spirit engagement as building a kind of reciprocal relationship with various entities, spirits, those that you want to interact with. What have been some strong takeaways when you engage with spirits or non corporeal beings? And what does Diamond Sunrise Academy prescribe when engaging with these beings? And you've already, again, helped me answer this question by designing this fantastic space within to better prepare yourself for engagement. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
Hmm. Yeah. Well, the word spirits, there's deities that you're imagining. Um, Something that I shied away from for a long time was just hearing non-embodied voices in my head. As I was doing ceremonial magic, I was really thinking, I don't need voices in my head right now. There's enough stuff going on. So when people talk to spirits, they can come in those two forms, I suppose. One is just you're engaging with a voice, no visuals. The other is engaging with a visualization, whether it comes to you or you're creating it. Um, I think the most important thing to keep in mind when you're doing this is, and it all comes back to having a sound mind. You are, you have to consider respect and karma and where you sit in the hierarchy of things. Um, if you're summoning something that you think is more powerful than you and then you're ordering it around, that's incongruent and it doesn't make sense. So you need to think about the things that you're doing and think, you know, if this is real, am I engaging with this in the proper way? Um, and you don't want to be ordering around something that you feel is more powerful than you, but you also don't want to keep yourself on a lower rung forever, where you feel like you're small. So that's where the celestial ascent comes in. You're kind of working with yourself, how you perceive yourself, how you perceive the things that are going on in your imagination, and building yourself a route to growth that is virtuous.
Fantastic. Thank you. Thank you very much. That actually leads us right into another question I have, but we can kick them off with two fantastic posts that you've made. I believe they were both in March. But the first one is the part about disclosure they don't want people to know is magic is real. Yes. And I'm going to have to kindly and respectfully ask for all of my loosh back, which I can also agree with as both great. So, what when it comes to our position in correlation with beings that may not be what we may be in this iteration and round, what are your thoughts as a practicing magician on the makeup of reality? Where does all of this break down in your map? Where do we fit in the hierarchy? And it sounds like we've got some leeway to move through. But I'd also like to know what your thoughts on Loosh are, and how does the discussion and narrative of the whole NHI phenomena, aliens, sentient plasma, if at all, how does that lay onto your map?
Right.
I know I front
Well,
loaded you a lot there. Thank you.
yeah, no, I'm thinking about, 'cause this has come up a lot for me, where once people get into spiritual things, they can focus too much on spiritual things and think that spirit is all that matters. But there's mind, body, and spirit, if we can simply put it into those three categories. And the first thing I would say is all three of them are equally important. I wouldn't sacrifice one for the other. I wouldn't put any one above the other. People will say you shouldn't be thinking at all because thoughts are sabotaging you, but that's 1/3 of the equation. You need to be thinking, you need to be in touch with your spiritual self. But when it comes to the physical reality, um, I've begun to think about this as the almost like a gift, like it's a very important aspect of it because it's so easy to deny it and put it below everything else. But if you can, and it's so easy to take spiritual things and elevate them far beyond everything.
Mm-hmm.
So if you can think of the physical reality as a sort of gift and as an important aspect of the entire reality, then that helps balance out the three of them. Um, how they all intermingle, um, that is hard to describe. It's sort of something that you can only experience when synchronicities and things start to come. But I guess the simplest way to say it is the more you delve into mind and spirit, if you're a complete physicalist, the more you'll realize the causal threads that run between the three. And there's a huge continuum of experiences and perspectives one can take from you need to physically do everything step by step, and that's how things work, to the complete manifestation side of things, where it's like set it and forget it, just drop in the present moment, let everything happen. And although both are correct, if you're just tracking the present moment, you'll find yourself oscillating between them, and that's sort of the experience of how the causal connections tend to go together. Um, does that answer your question?
That's a wonderful explanation. Yes, absolutely. Love the tie-in of the late night infomercial, set it and forget it. There's truth to that for sure. But the vacillation is very familiar between these ends of the pendulum swing. That's a fantastic answer. Yes, thank you. So, more particularly, how does Loosh fit into this experience of the gift? Also, I wanted to say that's a really great mindset, the physical as a gift, because it does seem like it is rare when comparing to non corporeal intelligence. It does seem like it's a special time, and they don't get it, and we do.
Yeah, yeah. And lots of hard things happen in life. And I made another tweet once. Perhaps the greatest psyop of them all is that bad experiences are bad, because you can learn to enjoy them all and you carry them with you for the rest of your life. You better reframe them into something that works for you. So a gift is a good perspective that for people to carry on with them.
No, I like that too. Look, they're going to be with you whether you like them or not. You might as well look at them a little differently for your own benefit. That's easier said than done, I will certainly admit, but that is a wonderful way to frame it. So when it comes to Loosh, do you have any thoughts?
When I talk about Loosh, it's generally a joke. It's kind
Okay.
of like a funny Twitter meme. If I were to think about what Loosh farming is, it does sound like, I don't know. Sometimes I think that some of these things are, if 51% of people believe that there's aliens out there farming our Loosh, then it becomes true. If not, then it doesn't. And I don't know if that's the case either, although it seems to be. I'm not sure that there's aliens farming our Loosh, to be honest.
All right. Hey, I told that's right. I appreciate the perspective. Me neither. I haven't seen the canisters. I do not know of the lines injected one way or the other. And it all was popularized, at least in the modern era, by Robert Monroe and his experience with being told that that was the case. Um, in terms of frames, experiences, and narratives, one way or the other, because that is a particular way of looking at a situation. Have you, in your own journeying, in your experiencing, come across a frame that had been initially presented one way and then through continued experience seen it shift or expand to another way of explaining or understanding?
That's a great question. I'm sure it's happened many times. Um, give me a moment while something comes to my mind. An experience that I originally thought about one way, and then the more I delved into it, it changed over time. Is that what you're looking for?
Absolutely, yeah.
Hmm. Well, something simple comes to my mind. A lot of people get hung up on this when they're entering the imaginal world, is they think, and especially people with aphantasia, which is they can't see things in their mind. They think that when you're imagining things in your head, that you're supposed to see it vividly like a movie, like you're dreaming immediately. And that's just not the case. When you first start using your imagination actively, it's actually more of a knowing. And what I mean by that is if I were to say, what does a sphere look like floating 1 inch off of a table? You know what that looks like. You're not seeing it in your eyes are open, you're not seeing it, but you know what it looks like. And when you start to layer many knowings like that, like, well, there's a chair beside the table, and then there's a painting on the wall that's 5 feet behind the table, and you continually add detail, eventually the knowing turns into a full fledged picture. And then it starts to feel like you're seeing it. And then you're walking around and you remember, oh, yeah, I'm sitting down meditating right now. I forgot. I thought I was walking through this room. So that's something that I've found once that sort of clicked for me. I had a lot more control over my imagination, and when I explain that to people, I find it helps them actually actively daydream where they would have been stuck otherwise.
Well, I think you've unlocked something in my own mind just right there. That is a wonderful way to describe the process of layering for visualization. Visualization limits the ability to understand what's actually going on. The idea of knowing different aspects of a situation and having them stack to the point of then a symptom or answer to the layout of the equation of all of these knowings is then the proper visualization of a sphere floating 1 inch off a table. That's really cool. And that is the first time I've had it explained to me that way. It takes a load off of the pressure of feeling like I have to see the movie now or else I'm not doing it right.
People will be like, I can't see the red apple with the bite out of it. I can't spin it. And it's like, what if it's in a fruit basket? Can you see it now? And it starts to come together the more you add details. There's a worm sticking out of it. Can you see the worm sticking out of it? Um, yeah, I find that very helpful.
That's fantastic. Oh, that's good reason to take the class, everybody. Very cool. Very cool. Okay, well, I would be very interested from your magical perspective because the term discernment gets tossed around a lot, and defining it tends to be more experiential than descriptive. But I would be interested for you to provide your perspective on discernment. You have gone through, as you had mentioned, different religious practices. You've been baptized, you explored a mosque, you studied Islam, excuse me, all while being an active and practicing astral chaos magician. How has this smorgasbord sharpened your discernment? And back to the beginning of the question, how would you explain discernment to a noob?
Discernment. I would explain it like it's your certainty about something on a continuum between 0 and 100.
Hmm.
People will have a experience and they'll immediately get attached to it and put it at 100 on, oh yeah, that's real. That's exactly how it is. And it's good to experience what it feels like for that to be at 100 on a continuum, but it makes the most sense to bounce it around, think about some alternatives, and just be flexible. Don't be so set in stone about your experiences because as you continue to do something, you're definitely going to change your perspective, or you should, because that's where the growth is. If you don't, then you kind of get lost in the sauce or stuck where you're at. Um, and applying that to each of your experiences. when you see discernment on a continuum from 0 to 100, you can sort of then use it as a tool. There's an idea called role insight. It's not a word or an insight role. It's not a word or a term that gets thrown around much, but it essentially is when you decide that you're going to be 100 or 99.9% in on something just as a role you're going to play so you can pull the most information out of it. I made a post recently about when I joined Christianity. I was already practicing magic. I wanted to learn everything that Christianity had in a magical sense so I could apply it to my own life. So when they told me you need to believe in Jesus, you need to do all these things, I immediately just went to 100 on it in my certainty just so I could believe it, so I could soak in the wisdom. Um, but then discernment comes in at the end where you get the knowledge, you get the wisdom, maybe in some moments of doubt or interest, when you're introspective about the whole thing, you'll go back and you'll be like, is this really true? I don't know about this. That doesn't really make sense. But when you're really trying to learn, you go back to 100. You're like, okay, I'm going to buy in, and because this is where the knowledge is, I can always go back to somewhere else. But it's being able to play with that dial purposefully so that you can get as much knowledge as you can while also keeping yourself grounded in reality, I would say.
Cool. Awesome. Thank you. Yeah. And that has echoes of chaos magic and putting the system on, buying wholeheartedly into it to make the system work, because that's how the system works, is commitment to the system. But then having the, as you express, the dial to be able to back out and go, okay, we did it. Now what? What can I take away from that experience from this outer perspective via discernment? Thank you. That's great. Because I see it slung around quite a bit. People need discernment. We need discernment. What does it mean? How do you discern? You tell me. I don't know. So thank you. That's quite helpful. So then, how would you instruct interested but fresh-eyed individuals to dip their toes into the waters of magic, beyond visiting, obviously, and definitely visit diamondsunrise.org? Would you, if someone were like, hey man, I see you, you're a wizard, what do I do? Do you recommend them start with a system? Do you recommend them to just start with a particular practice, just meditate, do a technique? What is the optimal first step?
Right. Well, I feel that it's very important to have a foundation in meditation. The first 3 weeks that we teach at Diamond Sunrise is meditations like stillness of the body, where you see how long you can keep your entire body still, so you can master your body before you go and master your mind. And that would include not itching yourself, not fidgeting, not moving your tongue. Some people will go as far as like, dang it, I messed up. I swallowed my spit. It's okay to swallow your spit if you're practicing stillness, but it's just to gain mastery over your body. And then we do focusing on breath as a in between from focusing on your body to mindfulness, which is the 3rd week, because jumping straight to mindfulness can be difficult without having something structured to focus on besides nothing or your thoughts. And mindfulness, I think, is one of the most important skills that you can learn, because a lot of what you're dealing with, besides your body, besides the spirit world or the imaginal or astral, is your mind and your thoughts. And we have thoughts being inserted or coming from our subconscious, just habitual thoughts all the time. And we usually don't catch the first one. We start drilling down, and after 15 thoughts, we realize, oh, I've been thinking about this for 5 minutes. And that's okay. It's about catching yourself when you're thinking about those things and being able to find out where it came from, where it's going. Because once you gain mastery over your mind and you can sit and have astral experiences, new thoughts will arise, and you don't want to be lost in the sauce, thinking about thinking as your default mode. You want to be able to catch those thoughts, see where they're going, analyze them. Have I had this one before? Is this a recurring thought? I would say master your body and master your mind before you try to master the spirit world.
Put that on a t-shirt. That's quite good. Thank you. Very nice. Great advice, too. So many people will say, just go, just do it. CE5, roll the dice, build a circle. Mastering your mind and mastering your body. I know the itches can get insane when you do. I certainly do body quiet down now practices. And yeah, it's amazing. You catch, like, no, don't scratch your head. So great advice. Thank you. And thank you for, again, the discernment discussion. I very much appreciate it. Well, I would actually like to discuss one of the videos that you have produced and put up on social media. It was a 7-minute plus, give or take, long video of you performing a ritual. And response to someone who had written to you, they said, who replied to you, what a powerful and sacred ritual, if I may ask. What was the intention behind it? I like you, can we be friends? And you replied, a power ritual, charging the diamond sunrise hypersigil, surrendering to God, reaching for higher spiritual growth and strength, manipulating the timeline to forever be in my favor, expelling positive energy into the universe. I would love to know more about that experience, what prompted it, and what if there were any results, synchronicities, anything that came about post ritual and post posting on X. It got quite the response, it's a good video. I watched it.
Yeah, so it's a funny video. I had it on my Instagram for a while, and I had to take it down because it was scaring my friends and family. They were like, "Are you okay?" Like,
I
did
can
you read the
understand.
description? They're like, "Yeah, but I don't have enough context. I don't know what all that means." Um, yeah, well, going out into the forest, first of all, in the middle of the night, is something that can be scary for people. And, you know, diamond sunrise, our hyper sigil means divine coordination in our favor. If you believe you have divine coordination in your favor, are you really going to go out into the forest and get mauled by animals? There's a level of faith and trust that you need to have to go and do something like that. And I feel that most people don't know when they first hear about ceremonial magic that 99.9% of it happens in your imagination, in your ceremonial temple. And if you do that enough, I think this was it pouring out into the real world for me. You're trying to do state management in your imagination, and without any breath work or moving your body or things like that, it's a lot of it's not as easy, let's say.
Mm.
So, and I wanted to show people, like, people don't really know. I talk on Twitter. They may or may not know. People think I'm LARPing sometimes, that I'm just saying I do
Your
magic, but
memes
I
are
don't do
extra
magic.
fresh. Yes, I mean, well, they're very good.
So I wanted to just kind of put myself in the position where I'm just freely expressing, doing magic, and it might help to understand how the diamond sunrise sigil functions. So it's a hyper sigil. It means divine coordination in our favor. Anybody can use it at any time to charge it, and it only gets more powerful with each charge, just like an egregore would. And anybody can draw from it at any time. Just knowing how many people are seeing it, how many people are drawing it every day, how many people are using it, helps empower the pull when you think about it and use it. So by doing what I did in the video, for people, maybe we could put a link in the show notes or something for people who haven't seen it. Um, the goal was to charge it in a way where forever in my memory, it's charged far beyond what it was before I did that ritual, because that memory has stuck with me. But also all the movements I was doing, the energy I was pulling in, those are things that I might have to visualize in various ways in my imagination. But being able to use my body and use breath work, um, I was able to reach altered states of consciousness, as if I would say at certain points, like I did, like 6 grams of mushrooms, just through breath work and pulling down energy and visualization. A weird part about it that only I got to experience, obviously, is there was a lot of things going on in my imagination throughout that ritual. And only I can see that. But that's part of the part of the magic, I suppose. You have to do it to experience it. What came from it was very interesting. I have a funny story to start with. I don't know if you saw, but I threw my glasses off at the start of the video because they were getting in the way. So after I blow out the candles and turn off the camera, I'm feeling around in the dark for like 15 minutes trying to find my glasses in the middle of the forest in the dark. And while I'm doing this, I'm starting to realize, yeah, I just did this ritual. Like basically anything could happen right now. Like I could look to my right and there could be something there. There wasn't anything there, although I did shine my flashlight around to see. And while I was lighting the second candle at the start of the video, I heard what sounded like it could have been a raccoon or something, but it sounded like a skinwalker of sorts, some weird screeching in the forest that like made me look around. And then when I went for the third candle, I like looked back. I'm like, what's going on here?
This is
Okay,
still
I'm
cool, right?
good.
We're doing this, right? Okay.
Yeah, yeah. I'm divinely protected, right?
Yes.
So I ended up finding my glasses. A weird part was they were perfectly neatly folded somewhere afterwards. And I just tossed them in the dirt. So that's either serendipity or something happened. I don't know either way. But that night when I went home, I had one of the astral projection type experiences that people refer to when they say astral projection, where you're not just in your imagination, but you're basically dreaming, although you're completely conscious and zooming in through environments. There could be like a wave form, and you zoom into the wave until you see the particles, and you zoom into a particle, and then that could become an environment, and you're just kind of traveling and exploring. And this was the first time that I had met somebody in the astral realm. And I wish I had have asked him more questions. Maybe he'll watch this video and he'll get to me. But I was kind of just zooming around. I was walking on a stone bridge, um, just pure exploring, just having fun. And there was a very vivid person standing on the bridge, kind of watching me as I went by. And we caught eye contact, and I looked at them, and I was like, "Hi." And he's like, "Hi, I'm Petey." I was like, "Okay." And I just kept going. I fell backwards into the stone bridge and ended up at I was just kept going. And because I was only one layer away from him, his voice came through, and he's like, "I've played this game before." And that caught my attention. So I went back and I went to go talk to him, and I was like, "Okay, do you have any advice for me?" And he didn't particularly tell me anything I didn't know, but he was like passionately telling me about like how to astral travel and how to go to different environments and things like that. And I was pretty much just enthralled in having somebody talk to me and take me through an astral adventure. I should have asked him, "Where are you? What year were you born in? Are you a real person? Are you a human?" But next time. So that was one of the most interesting experiences I had regarding that. And I could tell one more story that I don't often tell people
I would love it.
related to that. Um, Occasionally, over the last 18 months, through my imaginal astral experiences, what I've perceived to be a extraterrestrial has entered my consciousness in my astral zone. And at first, the first couple times you're like, I don't know if what's going on here. I don't think this is real
What
or
makes you think
whatever.
they
But
are
at a certain point,
extraterrestrial? Forgive me, I'm sorry. What makes you think they're that? What is the perception that comes off as extraterrestrial? Is it the gray, the eyeballs? What is?
um, to be honest, it starts off as just a vibe. It's The occasional gray eyeball type experience is not always like that. Something that the first couple interactions were ones where typically when I do a lesser invocation, I can speak to them at a distance. But this one seemed to have a personality of their own, and they demanded that for me to communicate with them, I had to share my energy with them. And through that, I could have an internal communication with them, which was very alarming at first. I would let them in, have a little communication, push them out. And then, I got more and more comfortable. But at a certain point, maybe like 18 months ago, it told me, this is going to sound weird, in my imagination, um, look, anytime you want, when you're ready, I can come meet you in the physical. And every time I have that experience, I'm like, no, no, thank you. No, thank you. And after that ritual in the forest, I had another experience like that where they came to me in my astral vision. They showed me their face and what they looked like, and it was very gray alien. Somebody has shown me later that a picture of an Arcturian, which I'm not into all the alien forms and things like that, but it looked very much like that, and introduced themselves to me as the Guardian. This is some max level schizo stuff, so buckle up.
I'm in.
And again asked me, whenever you're ready, it could be right now. If you're ready, I'm ready to meet you in the physical. And I'm like, not tonight. I've already had a wild night, bro. Please don't. And I opened up my eyes, and a large shadow came up onto the ceiling and then receded. And there was nothing in my room or anything like that, but it was just kind of like a little, was that real? Did that just happen?
Uh-huh.
So a couple days go by, and before I go to bed, I'm thinking about that experience, and I'm thinking about how many times I've interacted with it. And I think, you know what? I'm ready. I might be scared, but I trust you, and let's do this. So that night I went to sleep, and immediately upon falling asleep, I entered sleep paralysis. And where my brain went was, am I being abducted by aliens right now? Um, so the next morning, I woke up and I was thinking, oh, I had that weird sleep paralysis last night. I wonder what happened there. And then a couple memories came back to me. One was me being on the floor of my bedroom, holding my hand up as something's walking in through my door. The next memory I have is of me paralyzed, floating out my back door of my house and up over my home. I don't have any memories between that and when I was placed back in my bed. And then there's a hand on my shoulder, like a comforting hand. And then I woke up and looked around, and there was nothing around me. Now, I don't know if I got abducted by aliens. I would have to do some sort of regression. It could have just been a dream. It could have been a sleep paralysis into out of body, into dream world. But the way the events all played out, after asking, I'm ready, take me, and it was that very night, that's sort of where that little quest ended up. I don't tell very many people, but now I'm telling the world on this podcast.
I appreciate you sharing. It's a small podcast. Thank you very much. I really appreciate you sharing that. And I also think that the more we are able to discuss frankly and forthrightly these explorations, because reality is far more complex and far more porous than perhaps we have been led to accept. I think the better we can ultimately, individually and species wide, handle ourselves when it comes to experiences like this. I mean, that certainly is not the first time I have come across someone describing an experience that could be labeled as an abduction. It could be labeled as spirit contact. It could be labeled as several different things. But to be able to, and thank you again, the kind of balls it takes to talk about this stuff is an example of strength and fortitude that humanity needs more examples of, and individuals that can have the capacity to do so are leading the charge in whatever we come up against next in our story of being human beings. So that, I think, is very important. And I am very appreciative of you sharing. Thank you very much. That's legit. Now, after all of those experiences of being exposed, first, um, what was the experience like before we get into after? When they initially asked you, you must share your energy with me. Did you immediately say, okay, just a little bit, and then push them away? Was there any kind of parlay when it comes to how much energy they could have? Go into more detail about that experience, if you don't mind.
Yeah, so when I first started doing Magick, I would say within the first 2 or 3 months of taking it super seriously, I would go onto a parking garage roof every night, watch the sunset, and probably spend around 4 hours doing basically light dance in the form of just like stomping or like waving back and forth. And whether it's light chanting or just in my imagination, some sort of like tribal chanting, eyes open or eyes closed, just like purely exploring the imaginal, doing invocations, things like that. Then eventually, that's when this thing appeared to me, and it didn't exactly tell me that I needed to share my energy, but it was just kind of sitting there, and I could kind of tell, like, oh, the only way I'm going to be able to interact with this thing is to, soak it into me and then have it
Mm-hmm.
talk to me in my head. And I was very hesitant to, every stage of Magick, every new experience, it's always going to be fear based. And it's up to the practitioner to realize why they're afraid. Do they actually have enough faith to push through this? Do they actually think that they're divinely protected, that something's watching over them in their best interest? Because if you start going down that path and thinking like, oh, this is going to lead me to selling my soul and I'm just going to be ruined, that's not the right attitude. And it very well could end up that way if that's what you're manifesting. So I basically had to summon up enough courage and the idea that I'm protected to have that experience. And the only information I got was that it was a non corporeal, fourth dimensional being that didn't have a physical body, and it had detected me doing what I was doing week after week and wanted to communicate with me. But something to keep in mind is, like I said, I was kind of hesitant. I didn't want voices in my head. That was like kind of something that I was afraid to do because I knew that that would be a lot. So, because of my resistance, I found it very hard to what people call channel. I would have to focus very hard to just get a little bit of conversation going, and then I would quickly just shut it off out of fear, essentially. Um, so it was something that happened to me rather than me calling out to it. And it would happen, it happened once, then it happened maybe a week later, and then a month later, and then 6 months later, until the point where I was recognizing it when it would come to me. And then that's when 18 months ago I said, look, we've been in communication. I can show up in reality when you're ready. Uh, Obviously met by fear. No, thank you. Um, so it wasn't quite a deep experience, the first one. It got deeper and deeper as time went on.
Thank you. Fascinating. And I also would just like to highlight appreciation for you saying that, hey, these things can be scary and you're going to come up against that fear within yourself. And it is the magician's position to figure out where that fear is coming from and how best to instill courage within oneself. Could you speak more specifically to how you instill courage within yourself, specifically in this instance, or just in a more broad sense? I think that would be quite valuable to anybody uh, um, leaping into the unknown in any particular way.
Right. Well, I was going through Christianity at this time, so I was all in on Jesus being the strongest egregore imaginable. And you really have to have something that you're going to hang on to like that. Like some people, it's Hermes Trismegistus, as if they're your mentor and they're coming alongside you. Um, Faith, generally. which is divine coordination in your favor. You either believe it or you don't. You either have faith or you don't. Um, because when you're going down the path, you, like I said, you have to have the thought, this is for the greater good. Like, I'm doing this because this is good and I'm growing for myself and I'm trying to purify myself so I can be a better person for myself and others. And if you're on that path, you will feel like, no, bad things aren't going to happen to me. This is all part of my growing journey. So I can get over the fear. Um, Another egregore that I created early on was a version of myself from the future that was max level magic. So I could just think about, what would I do if I were max level magic? Would I be afraid of this? And then I could interact and it would be very obvious. No, this is nothing. Like, look at me. I'm 30 years ahead of you. This is nothing. Um, but I would say, and I made a post recently, it's is faith in that you're doing good, that you're protected, everything's working out in your favor is probably the single most potent thing you can do. I can say one more thing that I was doing at that time was I had a bracelet that I made that had two white beads and then a black bead, two white beads, then a black bead. There was 15 beads and it went around in a circle like that. And every day I would go and track which bead I was at and continue on to the next one. So the two white beads would be focusing purely on virtue and good and God. And then the black bead would be whatever I want, you know? Um, and that would keep me in a balance where I know that I'm doing good the majority of the time, but it still gives me the freedom to explore whatever I want and know that the next day I'm going back to pursuing good. And not that I'm doing evil, but I might do something that would be perceived as scary or like I might have drawn my first pentagram in the Imaginum uh, on a black bead day, for example, only to realize, like most other things, oh, there was nothing to be afraid of. That was just a fear in my mind that's been instilled from culture. And the black bead system actually helped me get over a lot of those things.
It's a very insightful way to measure one's behavior through days and to orient. That's pretty cool. I like that. And that's some interesting synchronicity. Bringing up an egregoric version of your future self, one of the questions I actually have is, imagine if your future self shows up in your mind palace and as a slightly older, wiser wizard, what embarrassing rookie mistake from right now would they roast you for? And what one weird daily ritual do they insist you start doing immediately? That's cool.
Yeah, I could tell a couple stories about interactions that I've had with that egregore because, like I said, when you start summoning an egregore in your mind, at a certain point, they seem to sometimes act on their own, depending on your state of consciousness. So, if I was ever stuck on something, the first way you would use it, I would just do a greater invocation of it, and then it would just become immediately easy. It got to a point where it seemed a little bit overpowered, and I was like, I can't use this. I need to start just doing things on my own rather than relying on this. Um, I've been shown imaginal environments through this egregore where I've been taken to places at the very moment that I need them, like a physical or imaginal representation of the tree of life that I can actually travel by foot through the paths to the different sephirots. But one very interesting experience that stays with me that was almost alarming was I was in my imaginal temple, doing some experimentation with some Egyptian gods, trying to differentiate between which of my thoughts were coming from within me and which ones were coming from being inserted to me, so I could kind of try to figure out which one they were. And I was bouncing between something on my right and something on my left. And as I was switching one time, I didn't even summon this egregore of myself, but they were just standing there and we made like extended eye contact. And then I continued on. And that stuck with me because I hadn't intended on summoning them. And the eye contact was long and real. And alarming almost.
Attention getting for sure. My goodness. Did you pull any particular insight from that grasp of attention from your, and this was the egregore of your future self?
Right. No, I was still focused on what I was doing. I didn't want to be pulled out of it, but it was that after I was done meditating, I was like, what in the heck is going on there? You know, at that moment had a mind of its own. If you want to know about an insight that I got, I have had another experience with this egregore where it seemed to operate on its own, where I don't know if I was going to get advice or something like that, but I was pulled into a portal of just pure black by this egregore, and say sitting at a table with two chairs, but tumbling through space, completely disorienting. And while I'm trying to orient myself this whole time, and this is all just kind of happening to me, like the more you go into your imaginal space, the more like visions that you will just kind of stumble upon that aren't of your design. And I'm getting this message from him, basically a conversation of mentorship, like you need to really focus on getting your imaginal skills like really good, very vivid. Like, look, right now you can't even orient yourself to have this conversation with me right now. How are you going to make it to the next step if you can't like even have control over your own imagination?
Good insight for sure. I mean, these sound like incredible episodes to a show teaching someone to go through the magical practices themselves. That's pulled right out of a Rick and Morty cartoon episode. That's fantastic, man. Very cool. And so, from that advice, was there anything that they had provided for you to focus on singularly, or did you redouble your efforts into grabbing the reins of your imaginal perception?
Hmm. Um, I wasn't given any specific advice, but you know, my mind was just filled with ideas on, oh yeah, I do need to practice like feeling my feet on the ground when I'm here, or maybe I should be practicing doing other things like walking upside down on the ceiling or like flying on not forwards but on my back and looking at the like there's so many things I wasn't exploring that I could tell tumbling through space. I hadn't oriented myself for that type of experience, and it kind of was just a kick in the ass of like you need to practice harder, you need to be more focused. Like if you're going to keep going, you need to really take it seriously.
Cool. Cool. Do you find that you're able to do some of this or complementary practice in the dream space? Are you finding yourself having more lucid dreams?
Um I don't know what's going on with my I feel like I'm blocked from dreaming a little bit, perhaps, because I'm not much of a dreamer. I've had maybe 4 or 5 lucid dreams in my life, but I'm I feel like there's a whole other world for me to explore once I get doing this type of thing in lucid dreams. And everyone has their own journey, everyone has their own strengths and weaknesses. But I feel like once I unlock that dream state, and maybe that's something that after this conversation I'll take more seriously, there's going to be a whole wide world of new discoveries to be made between the dream space and reality because I'm interacting with a type of dream space. There's, imaginal, the continuum, all the way to astral, which then there's out of body. But actual dream space and lucid dreaming, people might have lucid dreams and lack control, like complete control. But I feel like if you can layer on the same daydream levels of control that you have in imaginal space into the lucid dreaming space, that might be where some really high level stuff gets unlocked.
Yes, I mean, you seem quite well equipped to be able to explore the dreamscape in a way that others who have not intentionally explored different states of the imaginal and astral might be. That would be. I'd read that article, man. I'd read that book. That'd be very cool.
I'll work on it.
Awesome.
I'll start putting my dream journal together, and I'll hit that road soon. It's there's so many things to explore lately. I've been doing energy work. I had Reiki done for the first time. Um,
Well, talk
I
to me
didn't
about
know what
yeah.
I didn't know what I was getting myself into.
By energy
I
work, do
had
you mean Robert Bruce? Are you talking specifically Reiki? Uh,
Yeah, so I had a Reiki master offer to give me Reiki for free after talking to them on the phone and in my town. So I actually had an in-person one. And they said, I'm going to open your Reiki channel, which I had no idea what that meant. I didn't know what I was getting myself into, but I was like, sure, let's open my Reiki channel. So I sat down, we had a conversation, we had a 60-minute session, we had a post Reiki conversation. I feel like in that moment, I had my higher self integrated. Like a voice came to me in the final moment and said, "Hi." And I was like, "Who are you?" And they said, "I'm you." And through what I know in magic, I just soaked them in. And then that became part of me from there on out. And after the session, the Reiki master said, "So now that your Reiki channel is open, crazy things are going to happen over the next 28 days. So just relax, drink water, and crazy things have, I'm 21 days in. It's been 21 days since, and crazy things have been happening since. I've been doing Qigong as well, which is energy work. And very luckily, I started off with a Qigong master who focuses on it's Jungian, I believe it's called. It's and a very specific form where you're not doing very many movements. You're just focusing on charging your dantians, which are the three energy centers in your body, doing microcosmic orbits, some animal forms and tree forms and things like that. But it's really in tune with Reiki, and I feel like they go hand in hand. So I also had a session with leptokinesis. I'm sure you're familiar with lepto.
yes, yes, on X, yes.
And God bless him. He also gave me a free session. And so I've just been doing all this energy work that's just come to me after the Reiki session. And so, like I was saying, there's the imaginal, ceremonial magic, theurgy, celestial ascent. We were talking about dream work and how that layers into it, but also the whole energy work system that I'm going through right now. I wasn't even aware of it, but that layers on the causal chain just as much. The more energy work that you do and have done to you, it will bleed into the material reality. A blockage that gets cleared in the energetic realm will lead to whether it's trauma being let go or things opening up or new realizations, new opportunities. So those three realms, I believe, are all very much attached. I'm sure there's more realms than just the three.
Awesome. And fantastic that you are able to fearlessly say yes and let's go. I will be experiencing these crazy things, and crazy things have happened. I am a big fan of Reiki. I've narrated several books on practical Reiki, and am familiar with the crazy that can come after. Have you thought about integrating any particular Reiki practices, or in any degree, any kind of energy work into the class work that you provide?
Yeah, well, the final thing that we learn in the last week of Diamond Sunrise is a modification of the middle pillar from Golden Dawn, if you're familiar with that. And essentially, what it is you're bringing energy in through your crown, through all your chakras, down to your root, and then out through your root, and then back up, sometimes in the same direct, like back and forth, up and down. So it's very basic intro energy work. And it's the type of thing that it will take. It's not opening your Reiki channel, but it's also something that will have an effect if people continually do it. I know Israel Regarde, who brought the middle pillar work into his um, was he a psychotherapist afterwards? He said it had profound effects on his clients. I think he claims something of upwards of 90 something percent efficacy for his clients. So it's something that may not seem like much at the start, but if you continually do it, there will be effects I'm realizing just through the connection between physical reality and the energetic reality.
Very cool. And that yet again supports what I can clearly see in the presentation on your website of how you have smoothed out and optimized the exposure and learning of a lot of information that is valuable but can be couched in, I don't want to say out of date, but older terminologies and mind frames that might be limiting to a modern experiencer of magic. I very much appreciate that and love this conversation, man. This is great. Okay.
Same. You're a great interviewer.
Well, thank you. I appreciate you saying that. Thank you. It's a pleasure. The information that I think is important and those that are experienced in it helps quite a bit. So, but okay, let's take it back to the street level. What is a totally mundane habit or pop culture rabbit hole that has unexpectedly boosted your practice more than any magic or magic adjacent kind of experience or text has lately?
I would say going out into nature,
Cool.
just because people, not only my Reiki master who uh, opened up my channel, but then continually after that, people are continually reminding me, you need to relax. You just need to relax. You're going through the Reiki channel opening. It's 28 days. Just do something other than work. So I have been making a point to go out into nature as much as I can. Anybody who follows my Instagram will know that I'm constantly posting pictures of me in forests and feeding chipmunks and squirrels peanuts and things like that. And through continually doing that, I'll have experiences that are so profound where that I wouldn't expect, nor I wasn't seeking them either. Um, like feeling as if I'm communicating with trees and getting like mentorship from trees, like really learning things from just walking around and feeling like my consciousness is expanding and I can feel every plant and every tree and every animal around me um, just from being out in nature a lot. It's not something that I seeked. It wasn't something I expected, but just from being out there and I guess from the other work that I've done, it has just been a result and it's been profound.
Awesome. That is wonderful to hear. It corroborates what I have heard elsewhere. Nate also has spoken highly of just getting out in nature, and in fact, also specifically mentioned the wisdom of trees. That is very cool. And was there anything in particular, vibe-wise, that you have received from the trees in which you have interacted with?
Yeah, lots of things from the
All right.
trees. There's a practice in Qigong where um, you, it's called the big tree. Are you familiar with it?
This I'm not. No. Tell me, what is the big tree practice?
You stand and you picture roots growing out of your feet. Um, and you turn yourself into a massive tree that extends all the way up into the sky with your eyes closed as a visualization. You pull energy up through the roots, up through the tree, and then out through the crown or the leaves or things like that. And then you breathe in through the leaves into your crown, back down into your feet. So it's a middle pillar, uh, pillar of purification, like we were talking about, sort of energy transfer up and down. And then you hold your hands out in front of you and just about like a big belt, sort of like you're holding a small ball in front of you. And through that process, you're trying to get a little bit of energy to create essentially a Reiki ball, Reiki orb in front of your lower dantian, which is the energy center about around your root. And you just stand there for as long as you can. And every time I do it, I can feel an energy ball there. And in Qigong, the idea is once you have it, you push it into your lower dantian and it charges you up or becomes part of you and it's part of the energy work. So one of the things I started doing was doing like a moving big tree where I would stand on the path, get the roots, and then I would pick up one foot and then place it again and regain the roots. So I'm walking very slowly through the forest,
Invoking the
and
Ents. Yes, very cool.
ex- exactly. And if somebody else comes down the path, and I have to like pretend like I'm normal and just go back to walking, but um, then I realized, I bring peanuts with me to feed to animals, and I'm always gathering all this energy and feeding it into my own dantians. That maybe part of the cycle of life is dropping peanuts on the side instead of like grabbing the energy and bringing it in. It's like I'm a tree. I also drop peanuts for animals as I'm going. And when I had this realization, I did that. I went up to a tree that I had had some experiences with where I was kind of trying to read the tree. It was a massive tree, biggest tree in the forest, and it was rotting in some ways, and I was feeling sorry for it. But eventually I got, because there's termites in it and things like that. It's not in the best shape, but it's still big and strong. And I got this overwhelming message from it that it's like, no, this is okay. This is what I'm here for. I'm offering so much life by this little bit of decay. Like it's nothing to me. And so when I came to re-engage with this tree after this peanut experience, um, I stood in front of it to be a big tree with it, and it started communicating with me in a way where it was teaching me, like, don't just hold your arms out in front like this, like, do a huge one, bring your arms like way out. And it was going back and forth with me, like filling me with energy and saying, like now close it in and then let it get bigger, close it in, let it get bigger. And just because it was up so high, I was thinking, oh, this one's going to go into my head dantian. And right when I went to go do that, it, or me, who knows what's going on here, says like, no, this one's for your heart. And then I put it into my heart, which was the first time I had done that. I'd just been doing lower dantian. And so it was just an experience, whether it was all me in the tree, whatever it was a profound experience where I was doing Qigong with a tree, learning things just by being in its aura and its presence and trying to understand its role in the forest and how I might emulate being a big, beautiful tree that offers value to the forest.
Yet another very cool book, children's book for all ages, Qigong with a Tree, How to Fill Your Heart Dan Chan. That is nice, man. I like that story. Please write that. That is really lovely. And a wonderful story. People go out and hang out with trees. They're going to hook you up and give you cool lessons.
Exactly. Yeah, I would highly recommend.
Has there been any other time? I'm just rolling off the cuff now because you're very inspiring. Um, when you have been experiencing something seemingly mundane that has then clapped you over the head and been like, oh, I need to pay attention. This is something I need to pay attention to, that has shocked you or something that has stuck with you.
Yeah, well, I've got one great story that comes to mind where this would have been maybe after the parking garage roof phase. I was out, maybe 5 months into Magic or so. And I was taking it very seriously every single day from the beginning. So after 5 months, I was pretty locked in. I'm walking down the sidewalk and I'm having just essentially just gnosis downloads, just like new information, just mind blowing wisdom pouring into my brain, essentially feeling like I'm having a conversation with God, maybe a one-way conversation, or I'm thinking the answers are coming, however you want to perceive it. And at a certain point, I'm so blown away by the information I'm getting that I stop and I'm like, there's no way this is real right now. I must be schizo. And I look down at the sidewalk block in front of me and somebody had spray painted on it, I eyeball you. Like there's an eyeball.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, that's a crazy synchronicity. Like, and it hit me really hard in that moment. But as it sometimes does, 5 minutes went by and I was like, nah, that was just a coincidence. That was just a coincidence. So I'm walking around a little bit more and I'm like, God, if that isn't a coincidence, give me a sign. And immediately I look up into the clouds and there's a cloud in the shape of an eyeball with the sun right in the center looking at me. And I was like, okay, okay.
Check. I got it. All right. I don't ask
Yeah.
again. All right. Awesome. Awesome story. And it is those layered synchronicities that, yes, when you ask and you go, oh, is it? No, come on. And then you're hit again. The world, reality, our lived experience is so much more than is presented to us on NBC. I am thrilled, or Fox, or whatever channel you shouldn't be watching anyway. That is brilliant, and thank you for sharing that story. I love hearing stories of synchronicity. I'm curious, going back, now knowing everything that you know, now having all of these experiences that you've had, if another entity were to come to you in the way as the one you had told in the story that could be prescribed as abduction, contact, maybe, maybe not, in a similar way, would you have handled it differently? Would you handle it differently again? Or would you roll with it just as you had before?
Hmm. At this point, I'm quite fearless. I think if something were to encounter me as I'm doing my things, I would be pleasantly surprised, and I'd be like, "Get in here, buddy. Let's chat." But I know also that if I were to sit down and actively pursue that for weeks or months at a time, that I could make it happen. But there's so many different things that I want to focus on. I don't know where to put my attention sometimes, and I'm currently. I don't know if you know this. I'm also going through Diamond Sunrise myself. I went through and I started in a cohort, the very first cohort, and we just entered the inner order. So that's part of my practice, and I'm also still going through Golden Dawn. I just hit Adeptus Minor after the Reiki channel
Congratulations.
and opening. So I have a lot of things that I want to do. I also spent 3 moon cycles trying to manifest physical contact with aliens. I'll use, when a new moon comes, I will put my manifestations into it continually over the next 14 or 15 days, whatever it is. And then once the full moon comes, it tends to pour out the manifestations. And I set it up because it was quite big to me. I didn't think that 1 moon cycle could do it for me. I did 1 moon cycle of just preparation, of getting my mind and my psyche ready to make contact with aliens. The second one was alignment, like aligning my life circumstances so that it could happen. And then the third moon cycle was actually making contact. And I knew that it was such a big manifestation. This could be a limiting belief as well, that it wouldn't come right away, but I was going to give it like 100 days afterwards and wait for it to happen, which these experiences that I'm describing afterwards did happen in those 100 days. Um, so, you know, at level 6 in Golden Dawn, or 6 equals 5, or level 6 in Diamond Sunrise, you start interacting with the Goetia, or you can do shadow work in your own way, however you want to collect those essences of reality that are perceived negatively into an entity, so you can study them, see them in yourself, extinguish them, or embody them in a meaningful, virtuous way without them overtaking you. Um, so there's all these different directions I could go in that I want to go in, but I only have so much energy and focus that lately I'm sort of just riding it out in a synchronistic wave. I've got my long-term manifestations, and I try not to plan and worry and get too hung up on exactly where I'm going. But when something enters my consciousness continually, for example, you brought up becoming a dream wizard today. That's coming into my conscious more and more. Uh, it'll become something that I will interact with. But actively pursuing some of these experiences, the short answer is I'm not doing that right now, but I would like to, but I'm just waiting for the right time.
Cool. Well, and it sounds like your cup is quite full. Uh, on that, how does a wizard relax? How do you take it easy? Do you still utilize the bracelet that you had presented, that you had discussed? Excuse me.
There's something interesting about magical items. I'm not sure if you'll be familiar with this, but if you overuse a magical item, it will one day either get lost or destroyed.
They do get
So
lost, yes, surprisingly, yes.
one day I swung my arm, all the beads fell off, and I was like, well, I guess that's the end of that journey. I'm just back to normal life now. I don't live by this bracelet. What I do to relax, nature is a big one. Um, I've I just went through a period in Golden Dawn where, the first four levels are earth, air, water, and then fire. And I have just graduated now from fire. So, for the last 7 months or so, I have been quite fiery. The blacksmith, the fire, and the forge, just not relaxing at all. So, as this summer came around, I've been actively going out and being social, uh, going out, meeting people, making new friends, starting businesses that aren't just me, but me and other people. Um, so I would say being social, going out in nature, and when you first start doing magic, it's very natural to do a lot of reading, watch a lot of videos and things like that. And then for maybe like 7 or 8 months, I hadn't been reading or watching any videos. I was just practicing and living and, having 12 synchronicities per day. So now I'm back to reading more, um, and relaxing doesn't come naturally to me right now, but I'm learning.
I got you. Well, and it also sounds like it is the phase in which you are moving onward, forward, and upward. That fire phase does require not one what might call relaxation, but a little more active engagement. So it sounds like you're just simply meeting the phase in which you are in wholeheartedly, which, I guess there's a kind of relaxation in accepting the phase in which you are in, one could say. I'm relaxed in the fact that I know I'm here and I'm supposed to be here. So that's pretty cool.
Right, and it wasn't like I was stressed out and I was like, "Oh no, what's happening to me? I'm burning." But yeah, so I had to kind of figure out, "Oh, what am I going to do right now?" And my brain naturally, 99% of the thoughts we have are the same ones we had yesterday, would say, just keep doing the things you normally do. And I'm like, "No, I'm going to stop. I'm going to go in nature. I'm going to talk to the trees."
Cool, cool. Well, and that's something that I actually come up against, and that you just hit on something great. I appreciate it. Is that 99% of the time you're thinking the same thoughts you did yesterday? It's one thing to be aware of it, but it's something else completely to then take it upon yourself to go, okay, what else? Okay, what else then? And that leads me back to the central thesis of this show, which is what can we do about it? That sounds like quite a good active practice to pursue. How do you find the motivation once you've been able to recognize, nah, that's old hat? I've had those thoughts. How can you recognize the newness and then act upon it? What is that process like for you?
Right. We did talk about mindfulness, so the first step is really when you catch a thought to determine, is this one going to lead me somewhere productive or unproductive? And you'll very quickly be able to figure out what it is. But the real answer to your question is, once you realize it's an unproductive thought, how do you replace it with a positive one? There's many different ways. If we were to go into ceremonial magic and that methodology and why one would use ceremonial magic, theurgy, and celestial ascent to develop your character and craft your character purposefully, is you're given access to all of these archetypes, gods of mythology, angels, whatever it might be, that have the most compressed versions of, say, virtues or positive aspects of reality, emanations of the source, or many different words, but it could be something like courage, for example. Um, and you can think about where you're at with your thought, if we're just using one thought as an example, and you can start to think, what would I do if I was my most courageous or my most brave? What would I do if my intellect were peak intellect? How would I think about this? And by interacting with an entity in your imagination who embodies that, that can help you pull some of the better answers that are less human grounded that we've been told from books or TV and things like that. And um, I think it's important to be open and to explore those things, but also not to hold on to them so much that you take them on as a part of your personality that you aren't willing to change, but accepting that it's just one step in the right direction. And the next time you approach this exact aspect of your character, there will be another improvement you can make. But um, taking it one step at a time, finding how can I improve this in one notch at least, and taking it from there.
Hey, that is wonderful. Recognize that there are big answers out there, but also recognize you're gonna come up against it again. Just find the next notch in which you can move toward. That's wonderful. Thank you. I needed that. I appreciate the help.
Are you a little bit of a perfectionist yourself, or?
Well, I mean, the perfectionist in me would be like, no, no, not at all. I'm perfectly balanced in every way. But yes, yes, it's the theme of finding it difficult to relax because you've got wonderful amounts of ideas and you've started on many of them and you're almost done with a couple of them. But finding the way in which to finalize the turn of the wheel, to close the knot in which you have begun to tie yourself is something wonderful and terrible all at once to experience, because it's a lot of fun and it's also awful. I'm that which is my personal experience. So being able to see the big, do the small, and let it complete itself without thinking about it as one would want to, like myself, is very helpful to hear from someone who is practicing and is as experienced as you. So thank you very much, and I'm sure you're doing a lot of good, dropping these nuts on the ground for us all to chew on. I thank you very much. Okay, if there were something that you could snap your fingers and give every single human being, whether they wanted it or not, a particular frame of mind, a magical practice or technique that they could be automatically efficacious at, what would that be?
That's a very good question. My mind goes to something that could be thought of as irresponsible potentially, because there's you need to have places to land. You need to have there's context, and there's levels to this shit for real. And if when I see people kind of losing their mind over it, I picture them going through the tree of life, but rather than from the bottom to the top, they're just a lightning bolt and they land in some random spot and then they don't really know where to land next. Um, because what I would like for people to have is two things. One is faith and belief that they do have divine coordination in their favor and things are going to work out for them, so that they should feel comfortable and confident moving forward in the right direction, rather than paralysis by analysis and fearful, because I know how bad that feels. But there's also an aspect of something that people will experience randomly. Maybe if you do drugs or you meditate long enough, you get a glimpse of level 10 magic, like godhood, for example, of how you are connected to the creator. And your consciousness is just a little bit of a light bulb, a perspective that the creator gets to look through and experience life through. And you obviously can't stay there forever, but it's the crown, it's the top of the tree of life that gives you stronger faith, gives you more confidence. It kind of helps you make sense of this whole experience when you're having synchronicities and things like that. So you're like, what the heck is going on here? Um, but you I've also seen people hit that level and then get a little bit of a megalomaniacal narcissism about them. So that's why I'm hesitant to want to that for everybody. But it is something I think, with that divine coordination in your favor, you may have that experience. You may get a little bit confused, but I do think that part of this experience is everybody sort of waking up to their own connection with source and allowing that to permeate through them, and then you can then permeate that through the world.
Well, that's a wonderful answer. One that I not necessarily was expecting either. That's thank you very much. To have faith and to recognize the intimate, ever-present connection, and not go crazy on Megalomaniaville. That's quite nice. I wish that too. That's good. Me too. Okay, here's just a fun one. I'm curious if you could hijack or jump into the mind of any historical figure, living or dead, fantastical or actual, and see what their internal experience is like or how they go about doing it. And, this is kind of something that you have already alluded to, you can actually do. But if there were somebody that you have not yet experienced in this way, what would be one of these legends that you would want to look out of the eyes from and experience from their perspective how they work within the world?
Well, naturally, wanting to pursue max level magic, you will occasionally think it would be really cool to fly or teleport or walk on water. And if you believe that these things are possible, I'm into manifestation, and I believe that the only limiting factors are the ones that we place on ourselves. But I also know that if anybody could manifest anything at any time, there would be no life left to live. So
We'd all be level 99.
yeah, instantly that would not make reality fun. That would be a bad simulation. Um, I would love to get into the mind of Jesus as he's performing a miracle, just to know what that infinite max level faith and what that understanding requires to do something like that.
Great answer.
What the heck's going on there?
Yeah. Oh, that's yeah. What is the actual tactile sensation of that level of miracle expression feel like? Very cool.
What's his perspective going into that? It's like that level of unwavering, like on Richard Dawkins' scale of consciousness, 1,000 perfect, and maintaining that. And then there seems to be a level of understanding. Whatever magical feat you do, you have to have some sort of framework on how it's possible. And maybe that's just my false understanding, but I would love to know what Jesus was thinking right before he hopped on that water.
Those pigs are a good target for that dude's crazy demon-possessed soul. Yeah, no, hopping on the water. I got you. Yeah. Check it. It's calm. Check me surf, guys. Oh, that's a wonderful answer. That's not one that I was thinking of. Usually people go, Merlin. I want to be Merlin. Which,
I'd like to be Merlin too.
Merlin's tight. Yeah, let's not, no hate on Merlin. Well, I mean, my goodness, this has been a wonderful conversation. I have to admit, you've pulled me through most of my notes quite naturally, so I'm appreciative. Now I'm just curious, what are you reading these days? You said that you had picked up reading again, and are there books that you would feel very confident recommending to anybody when it comes to this topic?
So something that's often not discussed, but everybody knows it's going on, is when you're doing magic, is a level of manifestation. Like I said, when you're going through a leveling system like Golden Dawn or Diamond Sunrise, you are manifesting your own spiritual growth. And everybody, once they get into magic, or most people, they're like, I want to manifest money or whatever it is they want to manifest. And manifestation is its own pillar in itself that has its own skill tree, and it has 1,000 different aspects to it. It can be like a fairy where you're like, I want to manifest infinite wealth, and then you always have money, but just enough to buy everything, for example, or you have to be very specific. You have to use your it's a structured process. So I've been reading books on manifestation. Um, all the old ones like The Science of Getting Rich from like 1901.
Napoleon Hill? Is that what that is? No.
No, it's some other guy. I actually don't know the author's name, but you'll find it online. It's free on YouTube, free PDF because it's old.
You
Um,
recommend it thus far?
I would recommend it because even though maybe even just the first 5, 6, 7 chapters, they're not even telling you how to get rich. They're just setting your mind up to peel back all the limiting beliefs that people have when it comes to any manifestation, because that's really what's holding people back is the trauma of life convincing one that they can't have those things, or it's bad to have what you want, or don't ask for things. And it really reframes your mind. And it's like, no, if you want to live your best life for you and the people you love, then get all the things you want and do all the things that you want and manifest them. Um, because if you're concentrating on purposefully building your character, doing magic, at a certain point, you cross over from the traditional material, put in hard work, do X, Y thing to get the result, to the relax into God's plan, manifest what you want. Um, and I would recommend whatever, if somebody is interested in manifestation, each different book, whether it's Napoleon Hill or this book I recommended, The 7 Secrets of something or other. I forget the name. I could get it real quick.
I'll look it up. Go ahead. Keep going.
Um, I feel that people will find the right book if they go and pursue manifestation that speaks to them and what they're looking for. You're basically, if you're looking to manifest, you're manifesting the ability to manifest well. And part of that manifestation will come in the form of the right book that speaks to you in the right way. It might not be a book, it might be a conversation or a YouTube video. One of the best, most concise manifestation pieces of information that I've found lately was from a YouTube channel called Archaics. Are you
Yes,
familiar
very
with him?
familiar with Archaics. Yes.
So he took all the books that could possibly be mentioned here, The Secret, every single book, and compiled them into 2 paragraphs. So that you don't have to read all the books if you want. You could just listen to these 2 paragraphs and just do this. But I would read some books because they help smash out the limiting beliefs. The first paragraph is, and everybody knows this part, picture it vividly in your imagination as if it's a memory rather than something you're striving towards, and feel what it feels like to live that memory. And on top of that, feel what it feels like and how good it feels that it came to you so quickly and so easily. And that is the foundation of manifestation, I believe. But the other aspect of it that is super powerful that people don't focus on, but it's actually very pleasant to do as well, is to embody the you from the memory of how it feels now that you have that.
Mm.
And an easy one to do is like if you want money and you picture yourself with a lot of money, a overwhelming relaxation comes over you. You're like, oh, I don't have to worry about that anymore. And just living in that relaxation in conjunction with your imagination, living the memory, remembering how easy and quick it came to you, and then feeling what it's like to have it, it kind of sets the whole flow in motion. And then you're able to just drop into the present moment and just live your life knowing, oh, yeah, that memory from the future is just going to happen. I just got to keep going. It seems like the whole formula, but smashing limiting beliefs that get in the way, those 99% of the thoughts are the same ones as yesterday. You also have to be catching yourself self-sabotaging as we constantly do. So it's a little bit more work than just following those 2 paragraphs, but those 2 paragraphs are key.
Awesome, and thank you. That's a wonderful resource. That reminds me of Neville Goddard and Joseph Murphy. In we've discussed and come up against this idea of smashing beliefs, the 99 thoughts that we've had before. What is your take on hypnosis? Have you employed it? Do you practice it in any way? Do you find it helpful? Do you find it redundant?
I've studied it a little bit. I have had one like free hypnosis session a long time ago. I honestly don't remember what it was. Deja Rue on Twitter, he has a hypnosis called Terminate, where it's and I listened to that. It's 20 minutes long, just pure positive enforcement. And I probably listened to that 150 times, and that was great. That was maybe 5 years ago.
Deja Rue. Okay, great. Yeah, we'll see if I
You
can.
familiar with
I will
him?
know, but I will link to that. That sounds wonderful.
Deja Rue 22, I believe. Ruby is his name or what he goes by, but he's got over 100,000 followers on Twitter. He's always spitting some good knowledge,
Awesome.
and he's got that Terminate tape that you can get. But besides that, I don't have any formal hypnotism, but I would love to. I've been speaking to a couple hypnotists lately. One of my friends is currently training to be a hypnotist. She just did a sound bath recently, but it's secretly a shamanic journey disguised as a sound bath where there is a little bit of hypnotism through singing of songs. And I found that absolutely profound. And then sometimes when I'm doing my imaginal workings, whether it's ceremonial magic or some sort of journey or quest, I will use my own consciousness on myself to do a little bit of hypnosis. Or if I'm, like I said, smashing beliefs, if I get a bad thought, then I'll go back and I'll continually repeat the positive reinforcement of it. I do enjoy affirmations, and that's sort of a little bit of a hypnotism, but I would, if there's 100 levels to the first stage of hypnotism, I would put myself at like level 10 or 20. I have a lot of room to go there.
Cool. Cool. Thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate that insight. I too have found value through hypnosis. And the affirmations, I find that making your own seem to resonate the most, but there are certainly aphorisms that are universal that seem to cut through the 99 thoughts.
Definitely.
Now, you are awesome. You have hung out here with me for just about 2 hours. I cannot recommend people going to diamondsunrise.org enough, if only to explore the high-level breakdown of what they offer. Is there anything else you would want to share? And, forgive me, I never actually asked you, do you prefer going by Archibald or Z?
Z.
Thank you, Z. Thank you very much. And, yeah, I cannot appreciate you enough for hanging here. Anything
I
else?
can't appreciate you enough for inviting me. This has been great. This is my first podcast appearance. It's something I manifested, and here you are. So we're our paths align. I love it.
Thank you. I mean, it is a pleasure to be able to swim in the same channel as someone as experienced and willing to share as yourself. I think you have helped humanity quite a bit. You've certainly helped me a lot today, so thank you. Yeah, anything else you would like to share with people beyond, and again, diamondsunrise.org, everybody. Visit diamondsunrise.org. Anything else you'd like to share?
I would urge people to, whatever your mindset is currently, how you think about the world, whether you think it's good or bad against you or wherever you're at, consider the fact that perhaps we're on the greatest timeline. Everything's going in your favor, and everything that happens to you is exactly what needs to happen to you for you to learn and grow to become the person you're meant to be, to live your best life. Because that's probably the most fun way to live life, and I want that for you.
The most fun way to live life. Thank you, Z. I cannot appreciate you enough. You are an amazing individual and a fantastic wizard to be able to converse with. Have a wonderful rest of your time. I look forward to hearing more, and I would love to do this again to get an update on all extra levels you have experienced in energy work, experiencing the dream wizardry and beyond.
I appreciate you, man. Thank you so much, Douglas.
My pleasure. Peace. Thanks for hanging.
Bye-bye.
Wow, what an episode. What an awesome guy. What an amazing wizard Z is. I had a blast and learned quite a bit. We're 2 wizards in, and already we are rocketing to new heights in the astral and other realms that I could not have predicted we could have gotten to so quickly. Just, you can tell my mouth is trying to catch up. I had a great time, and I learned a lot. Let's go over some percolation notes that I pulled from the episode experience. We'll start with his astral experiencing and understanding. I appreciated this a great deal, his breakdown of the description of the process of wading in to the astral. How most often, especially at the start, it is your imagination. But what is your imagination? I recall the title of that book that Lon Milo Duquette has written, or the subtitle. I think the whole book is Low Magic, but it's all in your head. You just have no idea how big your head is. Yeah. And supported here with his actual adventuring into the astral, as he described it, and how Z discovered that consciously daydreaming, building out your ability to consciously engage your imagination is the first step in experiencing the astral. The less you remember to associate with your physical orientation, and the more you remember to associate, familiarize, start from, and fully invest in and be committed to the real of the daydream, rather than the real of the physical experience. Then, as Z states, you start to recognize what others report when they report on the astral. And I've seen it talked about via Joe Dispenza. And he talks about it, and Z has a video discussing this, actually, that the brain literally does not differentiate, doesn't know the difference between interior lived and exterior lived experiences. It's all the same to the brain. It's the commitment to the veracity of the lived experience, wherever it may be lived, that seems to be all that matters to the brain. It's whether you take it seriously or not. Love the distillation of what the Diamond Sunrise Academy is all about. At its essence, it is a spiritual development manifestation system, a practice of celestial ascent. I think, my very humble opinion, but I think some kind of purposeful pursuit of this kind of activity will go a long way in the positive for the human species as a whole and for individuals, especially as we get into more wild Aquarius times. I may say that again in here, but truly the unmooring effect that we're going to be going through, and we're already going through, with the ending of an age and the entry into a new one where old institutions, authorities, and infrastructures are becoming undone. And a lot of us are going to be looking for, I know I am looking for, actively pursuing ways in which I can empower myself without the need to rely on these institutions that are being revealed as not being up to snuff, not being as advertised. I think over and over again we're seeing this. And so what's a person to do? Well, perhaps awaken to the truth that you are far more powerful than those institutions had you believe. And one way to do that is through the Diamond Sunrise Academy. Yeah, pretty cool. Okay. I very much appreciated the breakdown of theurgy that Z provided through the actionable discussion and presentation of the lesser and greater invocation practices from chaos magic. The lesser invocation, you're so deep into your imagination, you can create environments, create anything, summon gods, angels, Oprah. You can converse with them. You can, at the start, as he said, you should be aware that you are engaging in some way, intimately, with your subconscious. But you are imagining how the god Thoth, how the daytime empire creator Oprah would be mentoring you, would be conversing with you, would be teaching you. The greater invocation is kind of the next level up. Once you've had so many of those convos, you soak that god, you soak that Oprah directly into you, and your thoughts start to become the thoughts you would imagine they would be having. So you've moved from your distinct pattern, engaging via dialogue, with their distinct pattern, and you now have taken on their pattern, soaking in Thoth or Oprah, to the point where you can write a set of emerald tablets yourself, or know exactly which seat the prizes sit under, because it's Oprah. I appreciated the answer to the bottleneck question, that a good bottleneck to be aware of is the stickiness that some of these induced experiences can have, and that he's got solves to them. The solves are banishing, having a practice explicitly, specifically built to banish. Put the experience through the washer-dryer cycle. Get your mind clear, clean, separating your underwear from your shirts, and make sure your clothes or your experiences are put in their proper drawer, folded, and managed in a way that allows you to understand them in their proper place, with you as the laundry doer and, laundry wearer when you so choose. They're not wrinkled. They're not all over the place. You're not being dominated and discombobulated by underwear everywhere. That's my takeaway. But seriously, this is discussed many different places. Jason Giorgiani mentions this kind of meta-lattice process building in his book, Thanosis, his most recent one. Great book. It comes up in How to Defend Yourself Against Alien Abduction, as well as the essays written by Maze to Metanoia by Meredith. Great essays. The particulars don't seem to matter as much as we might like to first think. It is the intentional implementation of a practice, a technique, a mindset, a mind frame, or a system. The belief that you are a badass, and this works because you're a badass. That seems to be the main hinge. Now, there is something legit to be said for practices that are intentionally focused on. There's going to be more energy, more specifically tuned energy available at that baseline. That practice is going to have more energy readily available to buttress the implementation of whatever that practice is, because it has been intended with intense focus by many people throughout time, potentially. Why the pentagram has the kind of power that it may carry with it innately may very well be due to the continued use throughout time, as well as the kind of attention that has been placed on it, both positive and negative, by sources of authority, the church et al. But basically, if some people are actively charging a hypersigil, the level of intentional energy to be tapped in that hypersigil could naturally be more compact, more built-in, more effective. And Z talks about this. Once that hinge point of you're a badass is understood and foundationalized, and it's not like it's a kind of only if-then code or equation kind of thing, it'll only work if you all of a sudden think you're a badass and know that you're a badass. No, I mean, life works in many different layers. These things grow in affirmation and understanding through lived layered experience. However, building that firm foundation, and Z brought this up a couple of times, you're in the best timeline. Have faith. Believe that you are actually doing and living precisely the path in which you will become the best version of yourself. It's all working out in your favor. Believe. Know. Feel it. The manifestation talk, too. I mean, we'll get to it, but just what a wealth of information. What a motivating conversation. Inspiring information and actionable practices to be used. DiamondSunrise.org. And, DiamondSunrise.org has this instant banishing ritual and a magical weapon and a hyper sigil as solves when it comes to those sticky situations that may hang around because of how you are beginning to engage in the more bubblegummy elasticity of the astral and imagination. I dig it. Z gave us more great insight here with saying that, yes, you are working with what you could call Jungian archetypes, suppressed as well as being maxed out intentionally, but also remember to keep that childlike wonder alive, enough to be open to the wisdom that comes through. And this is interesting, that harkens right back to Bill Bankston and his cycling technique. He also, Bill Bankston of the Energy Cure, he says, you got to be like a kid in a candy store. You got to be skeptical, but you got to keep an open mind. And being skeptical does not mean closed-minded. By Bill Bankston's metric, it means saying, well, okay, let's see. Let's willfully engage. I don't know, but I'm open to exploring it. I call it consideration. Can you consider it? Can you consider that this could very well be an amazing adventure that you are living? And just being here right now is putting nitrous fuel into your vehicle where you will absolutely blast off in only the way that you will, just because you're here. Could you consider that could be? Well, if you're here, I think you can. And this was a great, big, strong reminder. It's easy to fall into various points on the labyrinth of life and forget that mind, body, and spirit are the three equally important aspects of this experience that we are experiencing. And as we get into the more Aquariusified times, it's going to feel very easy to fall into more mind and spirit kind of experiences and forget that we are here living a physical experience and that the physical, again, wisdom from Z, the physical is a gift. And consider that the physical is a gift. It's a gift. We're here, they're not. We get to do these things. We get to actualize. And that's pretty cool. Another gem from Z. All your experiences are gonna be with you. You carry those with you. You might as well frame them in a way that's beneficial to you. He crystallized it by saying, one of the greatest psyops is that bad experiences are actually bad. But in fact, these things could be incredible helpers, lessons, or rocket ship fuel, getting you into the next chapter that is even greater than you could have ever imagined could be written. So yeah, the mental reframe was an important and recurring theme that he impressed upon me throughout the interview, and I very much appreciated it. Another a very cool way to break down this idea of visualization. And that word, visualization, limits the ability to understand what that process is. I really liked how he discussed visualization. You're not going to be able to, once you initially engage with holding a sphere in your mind, holding an apple in your mind, immediately seeing it, unless, you're gifted. Great, congratulations. But that for most of us, the idea of building layers of knowing, you know what the apple sounds like when you put it on a counter. You know what an apple sounds like when it drops on the ground. You know what an apple feels like in your hand. You know what it feels like when you bite down on it. All those are layers of knowing. And to layer those actively, intentionally, does then build up your ability to visualize, which I thought was a very helpful way to describe and then instill a kind of technique within a technique of becoming confident in that interior process of layered knowing we can call visualization. In the discussion with discernment, the discernment dial was an interesting, actionable way to engage with experience. To distill further from my perspective, dialing down or back any kind of engagement will automatically shift perspective to get a different view of an experience, so you may ask questions and get information from a more detached, less 100% insight role position, as Z had put it. Master your body, master your mind before you master the spirit world. Wise words, it's a t-shirt. Thank you, Z. The stories that this wizard provided us were fascinating. I greatly enjoyed him sharing his direct experience. The post-ritual astral travel experience and convo with Petey was very interesting. Hey, Petey, let's do some magical misconnections, man. If you are out there, reach out. Very cool. And very much appreciate the willingness to share the story that Z had when it came to that entity, expressing interest in him, the sharing of energy, and the contact, and how post-experience, when he was shown a picture of what some would consider an Arcturian, he recognized it, looked familiar. Thought about putting a picture up, but there are so many different depictions of Arcturians. I'm not going to shortchange or limit perception when it comes to what I may have chosen as an image of an Arcturian and what he may have experienced. Fascinating nonetheless. And again, I stand by what I say. We got to talk about this stuff. This stuff is real. It's been going on. It will continue to go on. We've got to address it. We've got to be forthright and courageous and experience them in the ways, if we choose to experience them, and be courageous and strong enough to say no if we don't want to experience them. And I think that's important. I think ultimately sovereignty comes from the ability to choose what we want to experience and what we don't. And while there's lots out of our control, I think, and he willfully chose it. And, awesome. If that's an experience you want to get into yourself, go for it. But I think it's just as important to be able to say no thank you and have that stick as well. Case in point, check out my last episode on defending yourself against alien abductions. Whether or not that's what that was, I don't know. But yeah, the more we talk about this, the more we engage intentionally, consciously, and strengthen ourselves up, the more we're going to be better off as we continue forward as a species. For too long, this stuff has been otherized to the nth degree. And hey, I hate to break it to you, we all knew the entire time there's realness to it. Now it's time we take the next step and see what we can do about it in a way that isn't cached in a derogatory, less than mindset. It turns out it is the best than mindset. And I know I mentioned it before, but Z brought this up. Faith in that what you're doing is good. You are doing good, that you're protected, and that everything is working out in your favor is probably the most potent thing you can do. Turn that on in yourself. The Qigong big tree story was very cool. Invoking the Ents, walking around like that, being the tree, sending the roots down into the earth, breathing through the leaves on the branches, extending outward, and building out that energy ball to place into your lower dantian. Wonderful story, accompanied by the literal tree gong when he was engaging with the tree, and the tree was actually showing him expanding and contracting and condensing the energy and putting it into his heart. Beautiful story. It's time to do some lessons with the tree. It's time to do some tree gong. Also a t-shirt. That's great. The books that he had mentioned on manifestation, The Science of Getting Rich, is by Wallace D. Wattles. Lots of free YouTube videos reading through that book. Several different audio versions I looked just to check. The other book that I was looking up but didn't get the chance to say during the episode, The 7 Secrets of Greatness, How to Discover Your Purpose, Find Your Power, and Achieve the Impossible, by Adam Yanada and Daryl Anka. And the manifestation talk itself was great. Z had said a part of manifesting is manifesting the right book on manifestation for you. I thought that was great and a little meta. And the reference to the archaics distillation, which he then crystallized further, was great. Picture it vividly in your imagination. When it comes to manifestation, picture it vividly in your imagination as if it is a memory rather than something not experienced, something you're striving toward. Feel what it feels like to live in that memory. On top of that, feel how good it feels that it came to you so quickly and easily. And even now, like, there are things that I would love that I am now referencing as a future memory. Wow, how awesome and easy was that? Yes, it feels great. It feels hilarious. It makes me want to laugh how great that feels. Awesome. I will post the Archaics video in the description as well. But I appreciate that distillation. It feels amazing. It feels so amazing, I have to laugh. And the other aspect that he brought up, embody that you from the memory. Embody the you, feeling how good it feels now that you have it. And that feels good too. Like it's definitely joy and laughter inducing for me. The mention of Deja Rue 22 on X, looked him up. Wow, I would love to interview this guy. Seems very awesome, very into and deep in assisting and helping people. The Terminator. The audio hypnosis offer that Z had discussed, unfortunately, is no longer on sale. It's too bad. Over 7,000 purchases and great reviews all the way around. Would love to interview Deja Rue 22 as well. Fantastic episode. I look forward to implementing several of these practices. The manifestation ones, absolutely. I want to be laughing a lot more anyway, because it's fun. Why not laugh all the way to owning a multifamily property in the city of choice, you know? Why not? Hey, what the things you could do with a multifamily property, right? See? Oh, how easily it was. Yes. All right. This was fun. Thank you all for hanging. I am loving the exploration of discovering what it is that we can do about it, because it's all real. So what can we do about it? We got some good answers this round. I will catch you on the next one.